Cost of Living by Natalia Romo-Hudgins. I will be talking about the exploration of the topic on the cost of living within San Francisco and Los Angeles, California, with the stakeholder being those in low income, experiencing racism, evictions, organizations, and businesses that made changes to each city along with the history behind why each county made these changes and the trouble with knowing the cost of living issues in both San Francisco and Los Angeles. Behind the beauty and advertisements shown in both of these cities, there is a big issue that isn't talked about, and that is the cost of living. The cost of living is often used to determine how much it would cost to live in a city. There is more to implement that many people don't know about when it comes to the cost of living, including myself. There are city councilmen and residentials and business districts that were in control of these historical changes in San Francisco that affected the wealthy and the poor, middle-class families, neighborhoods, and even homeless residents. Also in Los Angeles, the county, such as WIC organizations, had experimented with the issues of the cost of living, what it is, and other things that played a part in it, along with how it impacted low-income children and the effects of discrimination and displacement. When it comes to the cost of living in San Francisco, it's a broad topic, whereas when you take to focus on the city and learn its history behind how they structured the city and its housing, you could find its leads to the housing and homelessness crisis, such as the CCHO organization that has been around for decades and has been advocating for affordable housing. The Councilmen of Community Housing Organization is a coalition of 21 members and an organization with its own dedicated staff that has evolved through 2 generations of leadership. They are now dynamically evolving again with a third generation of member leadership. Over its 43-year history, the Councilmen of Community Housing Organizations has been at the forefront of winning actionable policy that is a model for affordable housing and housing justice activism around the Bay Area and across California. Since 1978, the Council of Community Housing Organization, also known as CCHO, has been at the forefront of the San Francisco affordable housing movement. They fight for financing and regulations that influence urban growth and provide low-income and working-class neighborhoods more power. This demonstrates that there are groups out there committed to achieving the goal of San Francisco Bay Area, where all citizens can afford to live, work, and flourish. The cost of living connects to the history of the housing crisis in San Francisco because when it comes to choosing a city to live in, there are key concepts that need to be researched in order to determine what an individual can afford. It is concerning to know that the housing crisis will continue to worsen and be unresolved and has continued ever since. The living crisis in San Francisco is a great example of how the cost of living can vary in cities, but has many issues within the cities and is a good example of how the cost of living can be extreme or continuous for residents. But it is also good to consider who is in charge of the housing in San Francisco, which is Sharon McSpadden, who is the executive director of the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing for the City and County of San Francisco. Sharon McSpadden took the helm last month as the director of San Francisco's Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. McSpadden came into the department at a pivotal time because the city has had more than 8,000 people experiencing homelessness, and experts have predicted that the number could grow as a result of pandemic-related job losses. She's overseeing a department with a budget that has grown more than 60% to nearly $672 million. The dramatic increase is a result of newly released funding from Proposition C, a tax on corporate revenues that voters approved in 2018 to fund housing and services for people experiencing homelessness. San Francisco is a very pricey location even in the best of times, because of the city's dense population and pricey real estate. Labor costs are also high. Sharon McSpaden is the newest director of San Francisco and has made more action and urgency compared to previous directors of housing in San Francisco who did little to none. It's important to have a sense of knowledge on the cost of living in cities because if not, then it can cause uncomfortable sacrifices. In San Francisco, it's important to budget and seek affordable options when trying to make a living or even rent. Since covering the cost of living in San Francisco while compared to the cost of living in Los Angeles, it is important to have knowledge of household insecurity in Los Angeles, which is a lack of structure or security in a household, but doesn't look upon the impacts on children or even future generations. In Los Angeles, the most common and only organization that is known for providing resources to families, mothers, and children are WIC organizations. Food insecurity is a serious problem. Rates of food insecurity in LA County are back up to 24% in 2022. New research by the USC's Dorrance Life Public Exchange finds that 1 out of 4 people in LA County suffer from food insecurity. A household facing a risky situation is subject to future loss of welfare. The likelihood of experiencing future loss of welfare, generally weighted by the magnitude of expected welfare loss, is called vulnerability. There are only 7 local agencies that implement WIC programs and receive their funding through grants from Congress, unspent funds, and basically scraps of money left over from the previous year. Since there is a huge population in Los Angeles, there should be some consideration about the population of children experiencing poverty and how that affects their cost of living situation and the future impacts as well. Although there is a resource like WIC that is available for mothers and children, there isn't enough information about the resource or even enough resources by them that make it reliable for everyone. Los Angeles is well known for homelessness, but there isn't enough information as to why those in lower income and the filtration of the racialization of housing in Los Angeles or cities in general experience the most struggling. But it's those responsible for the city, such as Ann Sewell and LAHD, also called the Los Angeles Housing Department, who is in charge of housing preservation, development, accessible housing production, and much more. Ann Sewell is the general manager of the city's Los Angeles Housing Department, responsible for direction and oversight of the city's programs for housing preservation, development, accessible housing production, community investment, rent stabilization, and code compliance. The results of the point-in-time count, conducted over 3 nights, estimated that 69,144 people were experiencing homelessness in LA County at the time, a 4.1% rise from 2020, and 41,980 people are experiencing homelessness in the city of LA, up 1.7% from 2020. This year's homelessness count results offer a stark contrast to the results of the homelessness counts between 2018 and 2020, where LA County saw a 25.9% increase and the city of LA experienced a 32% increase. Ann Sewell is the new general manager of LAHD, and in order to meet community needs, LAHD runs a variety of housing programs in order to generate jobs and enhance safety, increase educational possibilities, and stimulate local economies. They construct and preserve affordable and accessible rental and ownership housing in low-income communities. It is good to know that they are making changes in the housing department to make sure that residents in Los Angeles are being provided safe and affordable housing. It's sad to think about trying to live in a city or even a certain area of a city and not be able to afford the cost of living there, or even know before you legally are bound to the contract where you didn't even know what you were getting yourself into.